my channel. This video is going to be about calorie counting versus intuitive eating in eating disorder recovery, and everything that I will say in this video is obviously based on my own experience and my own opinion, so yeah, just as a little reminder. Also, it does not apply to people being in inpatient treatment, because I personally believe that once you're in inpatient treatment you have to follow the guidelines and the setup of your treatment team. When you start to recover from anorexia, you usually have to gain weight, and in most cases it's quite a lot of weight that we have to gain, and obviously we also need to normalize our eating behavior again. And there are different ways to approach that, and the first one I want to talk about is calorie counting. Calorie counting is a really effective method if you make sure that the minimum calorie number for your daily intake is so high that you gain weight by only eating the minimum. You should also make sure that the calorie number is usually above 3,000 calories. The reason why I personally believe 3,000 calories should be the minimum is that I personally believe in Minimod, which is a scientific based method that you can have a look on the internet. There are a lot of good websites on that one. Also, I can link one down below if you want to. And moreover, you should make sure that you count calories in moderation. So it is fine if in the beginning of recovery you're really strict with counting and measuring out your food, because you probably don't have a lot of hunger cues. But once you get further in recovery, it's super important to kind of incorporate meals, for example, meals out with friends or meals at restaurants, or to incorporate even days on which you don't count calories, just to get slowly back to intuitive eating. When you count calories, it's really helpful to think beforehand how you want to distribute them over the day, because if you have a minimum number, let's say you choose 3,000 as a minimum and you eat like 400 and 600 during the day, and then you have like 2,000 left for the evening, this would be incredibly painful. And so it's really important to plan out well and to plan out what food you take where and all this kind of stuff. So yes, there is a lot of planning that calorie counting needs, but on the other hand, it's a really safe and easy method to make sure you gain weight and to make sure you eat enough. It's also super important that even if you are counting calories and even if you have set a minimum, that you eat more if you're more hungry. Because if you deny your body the food it wants, if it's giving you a signal, it still wants to eat, but you hit the minimum, eat anyway, because restricting your body from food will only prolong the process of recovery and will only feed into your eating disorder, and that is obviously not what your goal should be in recovery. It's also super important that you respond to your cravings and that you eat whatever you want, but you still make sure you hit your minimums. So don't, instead of saying, okay, I eat like 2 slices of bread with this and this and this, think of what you would like to have, then calculate the calories, measure it on the scale, and then eat it, and respond to every craving you have. Because probably your body is having this craving for a certain reason, so it's probably good to respond to that one. However, calorie counting can be triggering for people who obsessively count calories in their eating disorder. In this situation, you could consider having a meal plan, which is set up by a dietitian or by a doctor or by your therapist. It really depends. You can also set up it by yourself, obviously, but then please make sure that you don't trick yourself. And I think meal plans are really nice if you don't want to count calories and you don't want to deal with numbers all the time. Meal plans should not be that fixed. You should be able to respond to cravings, and you should be able to respond to hunger whenever it's there. So as for the calorie counting, I think having a minimum meal plan is nice, but responding to all and everything that your body is telling you is still crucial in recovery. If you have a really fast metabolism, like just as I did, so for me gaining weight is a really, really hard process. I'll eat a lot of calories to gain weight. If you have a very fast metabolism, if you struggle with bloating a lot or other digestive issues and stomach pains, if your hunger cues are really messed up, or if you are coming from a restrictive binge phase, then I personally think that having a meal plan or counting calories is the right way to approach recovery. Obviously, if all those things don't apply to you and you really don't want to have a meal plan and you don't want to count calories and you still want to recover, so you know what I mean, like the reason why you don't want to have the meal plan or the calorie counting, it's not that you don't want to recover, but you want to recover, but you think that calorie counting is so badly negatively connected for you and a meal plan would be too strict, whatever, then go for intuitive eating. There's no study or anything that shows that intuitive eating doesn't work. It definitely does work. You have to be really careful not to forget about the food. This is especially tricky if you're really busy, so if you continue your university study or whatever while recovering, then it's very easy to find excuses not to eat based on university stress. And yes, I speak from my own experience, I did that and I'm not proud for that, and this is only prolonging your recovery, and you really have to make sure that eating is the priority in recovery because that's just the way it is. So basically, it doesn't matter if you do count calories, if you choose a meal plan, or if you eat intuitively. You have to make sure that you gain the weight until your body is at a set point, and you have to make sure that your eating behavior is normalizing again. And it really depends on you and your background which way you choose. I also think that having some kind of transition between those phases are really nice. So for example, you can start by a meal plan which is really fixed, and once your body adapted to a higher volume of food, you can transit to calorie counting, which might give you more flexibility to choose the food you want to eat or how to distribute the calories over the day, but it's still making sure that you really hit this number. And if your hunger cues are coming back really quickly, which was not the case in my recovery, but it's possible your hunger cues might come back very quickly, and once you get there and once you're at a mental state that you commit to recovery and that you commit to recovery no matter what, and that you eat no matter what. And obviously the big advantage of intuitive eating in recovery is that you don't have to transit from a meal plan or calorie counting to intuitive eating. That is what I personally have to deal with right now. But I know that I'm at a mental state where I will succeed in this. But it can be really tricky. But for me, it was the only way to go because I knew the calorie counting works for me because I did it in my first recovery and it worked pretty well. And I also have a super fast metabolism, so I need lots of food. And I have dyspepsia, and I had a lot of bloating and gas and pain, and my hunger cues were totally messed up after my relapse, so this is why, for me, calorie counting worked pretty well. And I really recommend it personally because I think it's really easy and gives you enough flexibility to recover from your eating disorder, and it also prevents you from tracking yourself a lot because you can very easily control if you're getting the number in you want to get in. But I understand that people have troubles choosing this method because I personally never struggled with counting calories in my eating disorder, which is a really big advantage if you choose calorie counting as a recovery method. And if you were obsessed with counting calories in your eating disorder, it can be very triggering and very hard to do so in your recovery. So in this case, I would personally think a meal plan is a nice way to start. Try to transit as fast as possible to intuitive eating, but only if you feel ready for it. There's no point in a transit to something if you don't feel ready for it. Okay, so this is everything that comes to my mind concerning this topic, and I just wanted to elaborate on this a little, and you can ask me whatever you want to know in the comments, and you can also DM me on Instagram whenever you want. And yeah, thank you so much for watching the video. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next video, which is probably a full day of eating because it was the second most requested video on my Instagram poll. And yeah, I'm trying to do that, so be on the lookout, and I will see you. Bye.